Hey, everybody, it's Tony George from DocSports.com. It's my honor and pleasure to welcome in my good buddy. No, this isn't ESPN 1480, the average Joe sports show from the early 2000s. This is Chris Schmidt from Hail Varsity Radio, lead host and analyst there in Lincoln, Nebraska. And we're breaking down the Big Ten preview and maybe some over and under picks on season win totals from a guy in the know. Schmitty, how's it going there in Husker Nation?
It's good, Tony. Getting ready for Nebraska, Illinois. We're taking the Hail Varsity Road Show on the road a lot this year, so we'll be up in Champaign, and big opener for Nebraska, probably the biggest opener since you got to go back to the Tony George era when Oklahoma State came into town, if you remember that in 2003.
Yes, I sure do. And I'll tell you what, Chris Schmidt and I go way back on the radio there in Lincoln, along with Bill Bowman, the Average Joe Sports Show, amongst other things, the Tony George Show. And Schmitty, you were just cutting your teeth. You were just a little cub behind the glass back then, buddy.
I needed some braces, my friend, is what I needed. But yeah, I appreciate you, and it's awesome to hook up and talk some ball here. Big Ten's going to be pretty gritty this year, Tony, like it is every year.
Yeah, the one thing I noticed before we get specifics here, and I know you went out and did media day. I saw your interview with Scott Frost. I know you interviewed a lot of people out there, but I enjoyed your interview greatly with Scott Frost. And I guess overall, the one thing you notice about the Big Ten, we've got 4 teams in the top 25. This year, obviously, Ohio State is much like Alabama and much like what Nebraska was back in the 90s. You just graduate everybody and reload, and here you go again. You know, you're the team to beat. And that's the way it is here. But if you look across the board in this conference, there's a lot of parity, Schmitty. I think anybody can beat anybody on any given day. Maybe we'll set aside Ohio State out of that, I guess, narrative for the moment. But I think it's going to be a real tough year, and there's going to be a lot of teams in the Big Ten, in my opinion, beating up other teams from the Big Ten and preventing a lot of great big bowl games, because there's going to be a lot of teams with 4 or 5 losses this year.
It could end up that way, and it'll be piranha time. You're right. You're going to get, depending on how the crossovers work, and I look at Nebraska's schedule and their crossover. Listen, you have Michigan, you have Ohio State, and then you're at Michigan State right after that Oklahoma weekend. So it's pretty fierce for Nebraska with their crossovers. Home schedule's pretty nice. You get Northwestern at home. You get Iowa at home. You also end up having to you get to host Iowa at home. So it's pretty well set up along with Michigan and Ohio State. So all of those squads are coming to Lincoln. The problem is it's been a long time since Nebraska's really defended home field. I think you got to go back to 2012, the last time they were unbeaten at home. And then you kind of slip in that season that Riley had when they were 9-4 at 2016. But for the most part, you're seeing 3 or more losses at home with Nebraska football the last several years.
Well, let's talk Nebraska football before we get to some other teams. And obviously, I'm an alum. I lived there for 26 years. I'm born and bred a Husker. Both my kids were born at Bryan Memorial Hospital, and both my kids had a Husker stocking cap on 20 minutes after coming out of the birth canal. So those people who don't know Nebraska football, you're born a Nebraska football fan and a Nebraska fan in general. And the bottom line is, the one thing that concerned, I know there's some speculation out there that Scott Frost is on the hot seat. Now, I know that Bill Moose left, athletic director stepped down. They brought in the ex-Husker great Trev Alberts. How's that transition been from the athletic department and athletic director standpoint?
It's been incredible. And Trev is a guy who's made hard decisions in his past. If you look at his history at UNO, but Trev's a guy that's not going to take any BS, understands work ethic, understands greatness. And Trev's a guy that is going to demand hard work. He's going to demand greatness. A couple of interviews we've had with him, it's the same guy. It's the same Trev Alberts in a great way. And he's going to be there to manage Nebraska football. And I think he's going to be there to help Scott Frost. I think there'll be better management above Scott. And I love Bill Moose, but I think there's better management above Scott Frost, and I think that'll translate to a better Scott Frost.
speculation is Frost might be on the hot seat. Expectations were high coming in from Central Florida. This is not the AAC conference. When he got there, the cupboards were somewhat bare. I was not a big Mike Riley fan. I know he's a great guy, no doubt about that. And there's Mrs. Schmitty in the background. There you go.
There's Mama. She says hi.
We got her on the show. Haven't seen her in a while, but as I see her for the first time in a long time, you clearly have outran your punt coverage. But nonetheless,
I have.
Yes, but nonetheless, bottom line here is I don't think Frost is on the hot seat. The season win total, Chris, is 6 wins. Your thoughts on that? And your thoughts on, maybe you could squash the rumor that Frost is either win 7 or 8, get a big bowl win, or go elsewhere. I don't think that's the case there in Lincoln.
Tony, the buyout is $25 million. A year from now, the buyout's still $20 million. Nebraska has that. They've been paying a lot of people for a long time to go away. They don't want to do that to one of their own in Scott Frost. So, no, he is not on the hot seat. Does he need to do better? Do they need to win close games? Do they need to get to a bowl game? Yeah, I think it's a 2-year deal for Frost. Before that is really a serious situation. Now, with his assistant coaches, he brought everybody from Central Florida. It may not be a 2-year deal for some of his assistants. You need some of the position groups to step up and perform. Otherwise, some guys he's been super loyal to could be looking for work. So Frost, no, not a hot seat situation. He's not going anywhere, but that might not be the case for his assistants if they don't get better performance.
I think the total on the 6 wins, I think that's about right. I think this could easily be a push. The one thing that concerns me, and I'll get your feedback on this, obviously Ed McCafferty's son left the program. He was going to be the heir apparent to Adrian Martinez. But Adrian Martinez is kind of, to me, it's kind of the definition of insanity. You're doing the same thing over and over again. You're expecting a different result. He doesn't make good decisions. He doesn't have that good of a strong arm. He does have a tendency to turn the ball over. This is his senior year. Obviously an extremely talented athlete with a lot of speed. He's better at running the ball than doing anything. They've tried to build the offense around him with some complementary players. Your thoughts on his success level this year, Chris?
It's got to be up there with Penix. And we know what Penix has done at Indiana, the run-pass threat. He is fantastic. But Penix is good about, 57% completion percentage. Adrian led the Big Ten last year in a 71% completion percentage, but turnovers have been the issue. We're talking 27 fumbles in 3 years with Adrian Martinez. We're talking 20 interceptions in 3 years with Adrian Martinez. That's 47 turnovers. That is the word. That is the deal with Nebraska football. Turnovers have killed them. And Adrian's tried to do too much. He's tried to force some things. And in his defense, he has not had the supporting cast around him like a Stanley Morgan, a J.D. Spielman, or a Divino Zigbo like he had his freshman year in 18. He had a great freshman year, Adrian. He had a banged up, beat up, forced 2019 Adrian. And then last year he's looking over his shoulder because Easy Ed's kid is on his heels playing quarterback, and then you get benched. So you had mental gymnastics going on. He needs help around him. He needs help in the form of a running game.
Yeah, I think that they can get to 6 wins this year. I don't think there's any value in the over or the under. I do think they're going to have some problems. Obviously, what are the thoughts and expectations? For those of you that don't know, you young cats out there, 50 years ago was the game of the century, Nebraska, Oklahoma. Yes. And they're renewing that rivalry this year for the 50th anniversary of that. Unfortunately, in Norman, Oklahoma, I'm not sure it would make a huge difference if they were in Lincoln, Nebraska. Although we're still 80-some strong every game, and it's never say die for a Husker fan. Do you think that they're going to use that as a barometer to see where their program is at? Because outside of Ohio State, who we've played and absolutely got waxed all but basically 1 year that he, in recent years, Schmitty, What are the thoughts on that amongst the staff and around the Lincoln media community about that Oklahoma game?
Well, it's going to be a measuring stick game. Are you competitive? Do you lose? Do you get boat raced? Are you in it for a while? Do you get beat by a better team that should be in the college football playoff? How soundly do you get beat by them? Do you beat yourself? Is this a case where Oklahoma hangs 60 on you because you have 4 turnovers, they have 0? Or is it a case where it's a 45-31? Okay, yeah, you gave up half 100, as Barry'd say, but you put 31 up. What's a competitive level like? You've got some key games, in my opinion, here. You've got the opener at Illinois. Nebraska's had really bad luck opening the season since Frost has been here. It's not been great. Can you get and kind of be a front runner? Can you get some momentum? Can you get a win out of the gate against Illinois, who beat you last year, killed you last year? You had to pull one out of the fire 2 years ago, and they were -5 in turnovers in 18 against Nebraska. So Illinois' Lovey has left some physical dudes there for Brett Bielema. So do you get off to a great start? Do you get some momentum leading up to that Oklahoma game? Do you leave it all out on the field against OU? And then can you respond, whatever the result, after Oklahoma at Sparty? Nebraska, in my humble opinion, needs to be 5-1 after Northwestern before they lock up with Michigan that second week, October. We're talking 6 wins. You have a chance to get to 5-1 realistically when we look at talent on the field and look at talent in the recruiting rankings. Be 5-1 before the second half of your season starts.
Well, Schmidt's kind of leaning towards the over there a little bit, maybe. We'll leave that alone. Speaking of Bielema, his first year, mass exodus out of Arkansas, not a real popular guy down there, takes over for Lovey, and their over and under wins this year is 3.5, Schmidt. Your thoughts on what you think Illinois is going to bring to the table this year? I know you're looking ahead because that's Nebraska's first game, so you've been taking a look at this team. Your thoughts on what you think Illinois can do this year on that over and under?
Well, I think defensively they have some guys that are back. They're extremely physical, and Illinois has been a physical football team. They whacked Nebraska last year. They beat Wisconsin, if you remember, a couple of years ago. They got Lovey at extension. Brandon Peters, former 5-star quarterback, Michigan, cast off. He's serviceable. He's not great. They've got a really good running game, and Brett Bielema knows how to coach offensive line. O-line was not an issue for Illinois last year. It was turnovers and just some inconsistencies. So 3 seems low, but man, I don't think they do anything better than I think if Brett Bielema gets 5 wins with this squad, that's incredible. But I think he's right around 4. I would maybe lean the over, but we'll see what the injury situation is and what type of momentum do they get. I mean, think if they knock off Nebraska, that line's moved from double digits down to 7.5. If they get out of the gate with a win over Nebraska, look out as far as higher than that 3. Now, I'd run from it. I'm being a chicken. I'm sorry, but I'd just run putting any sort of money or stock on a year one, because the transition. Lovey's got some guys.
Oh, yeah.
There. Now, if they buy in, and I think some of the kids I talked to in Indianapolis with media days, they have bought in. I mean, Bielema's won. He's won a lot, and they've gone to Rose Bowls under him. Different program, obviously, but he knows how to win in the league, and he knows the coaching in this league. So he could overachieve in year one just based on his history and his knowledge.
So you were out there, Big Ten Media Day in Indianapolis, around all the media types. I guess, of course, everybody with the Las Vegas angle on the futures market likes to kind of know who might be a dark horse. What was the talk amongst the media about a team that might just jump up and be a little bit better out of the pack this year than might be expected?
Well, the team that's always the dark horse, even though they are 2 out of the last 3 years West Division champs, is Northwestern. Northwestern's got to reload a lot. They lost a lot on defense. They lost Hankowitz, his defensive coordinator. So I would completely pass on.
Ramsey at quarterback.
Ramsey was great at quarterback.
Yeah, and they've only got 7 returning starters on the entire friggin' team. I know Fitzgerald's a great coach, but I'm not so sure that might not even be a Nebraska win in that game.
No, and listen, I think your dark horse is always going to be Northwestern. We could talk Minnesota a little bit, right?
Yeah.
I mean, Fleck hosts Ohio State to get things kicked off. He's got Captain Morgan back at quarterback. They always kind of reload with somebody at wide receiver. They've sent guys to the league here the last 3-4 years, and defensively, they are going to get a chance to be better than they were last year. They lost a lot, obviously, with Winfield as that leader. So I think Minnesota is right there with Nebraska. Could they jump from a third in the West to a second, or be a part of that triangle in contention in November? I think Minnesota's probably my dark horse. And I would even say Nebraska, not to go Homerland on you, but if things break right for Nebraska, if they get better special teams, their defense continues to rise up. They were okay last year, good against the run. Adrian takes care of the football, gets a run game, and these receivers live up to their legit height, not hype. Nebraska's offense could actually score more than 23 a game and jump that number up closer to 30. You're going to win 8 ball games at least in the Big Ten if you're putting 30 up on offense.
Yeah, and they're over and under 7 wins here. I like the over with that. That's my best bet out of the Big Ten for the show here today. They've got a game at Colorado, which is going to be interesting. Now, Colorado, I think, is going to be down, so I think many have them pegged losing that. They also have a game at Northwestern that people have them losing. I don't think they will. They're at Iowa and at Indiana. Iowa and Indiana, 2 very good football teams, 2 very well-coached football teams. And Minnesota's got Miami of Ohio and Bowling Green that on their pre-conference schedule. They get, I think, did they get Nebraska up there?
We are going to be broadcasting Friday and Saturday from Minneapolis. So yeah, it's right after the Michigan game, and it's the end of an 8 straight game stretch for Nebraska football. Before they get into a bye week ahead of Purdue, they wrap up at Minnesota, and that was one of the more demoralizing losses in the Frost era up there in 19, where Nebraska just got Nebraska 34-7. They got rocked. Mohammed's a great back, though, for Minnesota. You got Morgan, and you got a pretty serviceable defense. So Minnesota could be interesting, but that's a game Nebraska, a lot of coin flip games, Tony, for Nebraska. Yeah. That's one game Nebraska needs to go steal. Minnesota came into Memorial Stadium last year with 35 guys out due to COVID, and they still won. So whatever you think of Fleck, he gets them up. Yeah,
row the boat, baby. Just rowing the boat against us with half a team last year, which I just want you to know, I took a lot of heat for that out here in Vegas, by the way, from my buddies. So
well, maybe you can roll up with me and we can sink the boat. I don't know. I mean,
well, one team that intrigues me a little bit. Well, we'd be remiss in our duties if we didn't talk about Ohio State and Michigan. Your thoughts on Michigan this year? The win total 7.5. There's always expectations in Wolverine Nation, much like there is in Husker Nation, but we've learned to manage our expectations a little bit based on what's happened since the exodus, basically, of Solich and then Pelini. But lack of a better term here, your thoughts on Michigan this year? What was the buzz up there in Indianapolis at Big Ten Media Day?
Harbaugh switched from wearing a ball cap and khakis to a suit, but he didn't wear socks. So I got that fashionista tip for you. But in all seriousness, you have McNamara, the quarterback. Is Harbaugh, for the love of God, going to get it right at quarterback at Michigan? How hard is it to get a stud quarterback to come to Michigan and stay at Michigan and be developed at Michigan? Because he was great at Stanford. And then he went to the NFL, almost won a Super Bowl, and now they have another 5-star phenom in McNamara. Can he take care of the football? Can he be the dude in an early setting? And also Michigan's not had the running game that Harbaugh had when he was at Michigan, right? So it's funny with Michigan, 7 or 8 wins. He's restructured his deal. The hype is absolutely fizzled out. But Michigan could be pretty good with McNamara if they finally hit and get it right. Ohio State, they're breaking in a new quarterback. All they do with Ryan Day is send kids to the NFL as quarterback, and there's a lot to replace at Ohio State. But they're in such a reload mode defensively. Their defensive line and what they do on offense is good. And yeah, you got the rest of the league chasing them. Penn State's interesting, right? They were down.
Yeah.
They finished stronger despite losing to Nebraska. It was the battle of winless teams last year in Lincoln. But Penn State had a little bit of momentum. They got to take care of the football. But despite what they lost, I know this is just all general, but they should be pretty good. And it's a chance to prove last year was a COVID fluke for Penn State before some of the doubters start chirping a little bit louder, much like Michigan's experienced.
Well, Penn State's sitting over under 9 wins, and their 2 losses on their schedule, everybody has them pegged. They have games at Wisconsin, who might be a 10-win team this year, and at Ohio State. If they could split one of those games, Penn State could, they could go over the 9-win mark. Your thoughts about them winning either one of those games? Or any way they can split those 1-1? They're both road games.
Well, it'll be interesting with Wisconsin because Rudolph has gone from play calling back to just solely focusing on the offensive line for Wisconsin. Maybe that will be better for Mertz. You're just going to have Paul Chryst directly working with the quarterbacks now. Maybe that makes things a little bit more streamlined for this Wisconsin offense. That's going to be your determiner. It's going to be can Penn State go steal an early season win on the road at Wisconsin, or is Wisconsin back and for real to take the West, or at least showdown with Iowa for it? I think Penn State's got enough talent to go get that win pulled off. You get better as the season goes on, and maybe Penn State's hungry and loaded out of the gate.
Well, and we'll close with one more here. You got Iowa at 8.5 wins. A lot of people are projecting them to lose to Nebraska this year at Nebraska. But you never want to count out
It's only been 7 years.
Yeah, I know. Well, Nebraska has been a victim of their own circumstance in many of Scott Frost's loss, last-minute loss, overtime losses, bad penalties at the wrong time of the game, turnovers at the wrong time of the game, giving up one huge play after maybe playing well for 2 quarters on defense. Nebraska does have 9 starters back on defense. But I think at the end of the day, Iowa's a team that's kind of been our Achilles heel. They're over and under 8.5 wins. I think they're going to have a problem with Iowa State this year, who's number 7 in the country, Schmitty. Matt Campbell's doing a hell of a job over in Ames with them, and they're projected to be possibly in the BCS mix as well. So maybe out of the gate a little sluggish. I don't know. Your thoughts on Iowa real quick.
I think Iowa's really good with Goodson at running back. Petrus is a guy that settled in. They didn't ask him to wreck the car. They had him drive it a little too much those first 2 games last season, if you remember, with Northwestern and Purdue. Yeah. So if he can hand off and do his play action thing, Iowa's got a tackle and a guard that are preseason all Big Ten. They're good at all 3 levels defensively. I know Penn State is one of their crossovers. I know Iowa also has that in-state showdown, like you said, with Iowa State. When's the last time you saw Iowa State have first-team all Big 12 players, 4 per side of the ball? That's what's projected this year. It's Iowa State, it's Oklahoma, it's Texas for your all Big 10, all Big 12 preseason teams. No, I think if Iowa can get that win, and remind me, is that in Ames or is that in Kinnick?
That game's at Iowa State.
So that's rough.
State on the planet to play in.
The wind never stops blowing in Ames.
Yeah,
listen,
trust me, I've been there.
I think Iowa and Wisconsin will both be knocking on that 10-win door. I think the winner of that game gets to 10. I think Iowa is, they have tough road games. I mean, they're at Wisconsin, they're in Lincoln, they're in Ames. I mean, do they go 1-2? Do they go 2-1? that'll kind of be the tale of what Iowa's season looks like on top of the crossover.
One last team I'll talk about, and we'll let you go. Let folks know he's Chris Schmidt, lead host of Hail Varsity Radio in Lincoln, Nebraska, and a good buddy of mine dating back over almost 20 years. Indiana last year had a magical season, and they're well coached. It was a feel-good story. I'm wondering if they could duplicate that. Tom Allen's doing a good job there with the program. They're sitting at over and under 7.5 wins this year, Schmitty, following up on a great year. Your thoughts about Indiana headed into this season and where you think they might land?
I think they're going to be extremely talented. Penix is incredible. Tom Allen has a great connection to Florida talent, being the D coordinator down in South Florida as long as he was. Recruiting JPP and almost landing Levante David. All right. So he's got a pipeline to Florida. They develop insanely well. Their big skill guys are back on offense to go with Penix. My problem with Indiana duplicating last year is their schedule. I think they open up with Iowa and Penn State. I mean, that's bang, bang out of the gate. I think they get to host Ohio State, which is good for them. They almost knocked off Ohio State despite being they were helped out last year with 4 turnovers, but no, I think I could see Indiana getting to 8, but they're not going to be what they were last year on paper record wise. I think they're going to be right around that 7 win because of their schedule. They were great last year. I give them all the credit in the world, but part of that too was the scheduling gods gave them a little bit of a break. In all honesty, and they got hosed. They got hosed. They should have been in the New Year's 6-day bowl game, and they weren't.
Yeah, and I think they're going to up 3-0. They got Idaho, Cincinnati, and Western Kentucky out of the gate. They also got Michigan State, Rutgers, and Minnesota at home. I think that Minnesota-Indiana game is going to be a hell of a football game, folks. And they have 2 road games at Purdue and at Maryland, and obviously they're probably going to lose to Michigan, Ohio State, Penn State, and at Iowa. But if they can split that Maryland-Purdue, one of those road games there, if they can go 1-1 in those 2, they're going to get over 7.5 wins. I like the over 8 with Indiana simply because I do believe in Tom Allen. I think he's doing something good there. They got a hell of a quarterback that can beat you in a lot of ways, and he can make a big play out of nowhere, especially with your back against the wall, and definitely help you cover numbers if they're a big underdog, which is kind of my shtick, Schmitty. That's kind of what we got to do here is cover the number. But
cover the number, baby.
Chris Schmidt, 1480, right there in Lincoln, Nebraska. Hail Varsity Radio. Tell folks how they can tune in. If you're a Husker fan, you want to catch the games, you want to catch all the information, lots of video stuff up there, Schmitty going live. I know he has a face made only for radio, but he does do a lot of video. Tell people where they can find you at, Chris.
Hey, Tony, thanks so much. You can find me on Twitter at Schmidt_radio and ESPNLincoln.com, where you can stream the show. And if you're driving through the great state of Nebraska, we have affiliates in central and in northeast Nebraska. So we're on a lot of the state. It's wonderful. ESPNLincoln.com, HailVarsity.com, and the podcast, Hail Varsity Radio, Spotify, Google Play, and iTunes, where you can find and download, subscribe. It won't cost you nothing. And plenty of Nebraska talk and other sports. And Tony, I love catching up with you, man. It's been too long, and it's been fun to talk some ball with you.
Yeah, I'm a little jealous. You get to eat at Amigos. You get to eat at Runza. You get my favorite place in Lincoln's Taco Inn, my favorite watering hole. Shout out, by the way, to my buddy Jim Tomasic and all my friends down at Mulligan's. Still, and Smitty, you met me down there for more than one occasion.
I think we drank Corona out of Corona. It was fun.
But nonetheless, shout out to all my friends back in Lincoln. Schmitty, thanks for coming on the show. We appreciate it. We'll probably touch base with you during the year and talk some Nebraska football, maybe for a free pick or something. I appreciate your time, my friend.
Tony, appreciate you. Take care.